We got a recording going, and I'm going to just mention that if you go to chat, you can see our agenda for today. You can see our background for today. We are Masters of Evaluation, an advanced and distinguished Toastmasters club. We meet the first and third Fridays of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Right now, I'm April, your SAA, Sergeant at Arms for our MoE club. And we take very seriously providing all of us a safe and secure meeting. We want you to know a high level of trust, honor, and respect for each participant is not only encouraged, but required. Masters of Evaluation members are focused on perfecting their speaking, leadership, and evaluation skills, which eliminates any room for personal offense. As SAA, it is also my role to share a few practices to provide us with a smooth flowing meeting. For example, we ask you to silence your phones. We do want to see you. Hello. But unless you are moving around, eating or drinking, then turn your video off. But do remember to turn your video back on once you have finished your movements. In order to make our meeting more interactive, we ask everyone to usually keep your video on and your attention full and prominent. Finally, if you are serving in a speaking or functionary role, we ask you to rename yourself right now, like I have, so we may identify what role you serve. We've also been blessed today. Jesper did new backgrounds for people according to role. Oh, we're so thrilled. Thank you, Jesper. These few recommendations will ensure we all have an enjoyable, comfortable, and memorable visit together. And the recording is started. So again, please remember to turn your phone back on once our meeting has concluded. You don't want to miss any important calls. It is now my pleasure to bring to our virtual stage our dynamic, always intentional, and fun-loving elected president, Jon White. Jon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for indicating it was an election, and thank you for saying it was not contested. How's everyone doing today? Good to see you. I thought I'd go back in history, on this day in history, because Pat Caslin's here and he's a historian. Do you know that in 1936, Jesse Owens wins the long jump and respect in Germany? A black man getting respect in Germany in 36. He must have been quite an athlete and a human being.
Yay for Jesse.
Yes, Muriel. I hate to mention this after Jesse's name, but in 2006, Talladega Heights was released. I'm sorry, I like Will Ferrell. As far as birthdays, Barack Obama was born today, as was Meghan Markle, and most importantly for me, on a personal note, this was my dad's birthday. He would have been 87. So with that walk down history lane, let us introduce or say hi to our guests. Alisanne Crump, how are you? And how'd you find us? And welcome back.
Muriel, that's how I found you.
Oh, that's the answer to everything. Well, then, Gwendolyn, you are a member, so you're not a guest. We have other guests here. King, Jaquel, are you able to respond? Mr. Martin, how'd you find us?
The number one answer, Muriel.
Any other guests? We covered everything. John Graham, how did you find us? If the answer is Muriel, just make something up.
Victoria.
Yeah.
Victoria. Muriel Victoria.
Wait, you forgot Sue. I'm afraid she's going to have a repeatable answer, but that's okay.
Yes, Sue. How did you find us? Who?
Well, yes.
Muriel?
What do you think?
Sue, in
got that
less than
one
1
right.
minute, recount the recruiting process. Ring, 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 ring. What did she say to you, Sue, that made you say yes so quickly?
So I do know Muriel from other clubs, and she just shoot me an email over saying, we need an evaluator on one of my Friday morning clubs. Are you willing to step up? And I said, absolutely for you, my friend.
Wonderful. I call Muriel many things. I kind of view her as the godfather of love. One day, Vicky, I may call you, and you will not refuse this request. Does that make sense? That's
Godfather? How did
was that Godfather? Oh, sorry. Judith doesn't like my impersonation. All right, anyway, that was a Godfather, but of love.
Considering that she's a woman, so that's alone, it's a kind of an issue.
Thank you. The Godmother. There we go. Word grammarian feedback already. Thank you for that. Obviously, I've been on the stage too long. I forgot to mention one other historical event. On August 4th, 2023, that would be this day, a man of great distinction said yes to the club's request. I am talking about Pat Caslin agreeing to be our Toastmaster.
Yay.
Turn it over to you, Mr. Caslin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that loquacious introduction. So that let's see that we get our voices and our grammar going. Today, the theme of our meeting is poetry. And I'm going to start off with one of our Nobel Prize winning poets from the Great Republic of Ireland, who was 1865 to 1939. William Butler Yeats won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1923. And this is one of his much-loved poem. It's called The Lake Isle of Innisfree. And it goes like this. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, and a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the veils of the morning to where the cricket sings, where midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree. So I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway and on the pavement grey, I hear it in the deep heart's core. I give you William Butler Yeats, and I will put that in the chat later on. Now, what I would like, if you have some poetry, and that you might just give us a poetic thought or a line or something that you like from a poet that speaks to you, your family, your community, your nation, whatever that is, and just share that with us quickly before you speak or while you're introduced as a speaker. And that would be fantastic. And that because poetry elevates us, and evaluation and this meeting should elevate us. Now let's get on with the business. The business is, first of all, I'd like to introduce your Zoom master for the day, David. David, what are you going to be doing for us?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I'm going to be monitoring the chat, monitoring our Zoom etiquette, and making sure that we can conduct a safe meeting free from unwanted, unsolicited interruptions.
Thank you very much.
My poetic thought for the day or poem. So when I was studying in the equivalent of high school, in our secondary school, one of the poets we studied was Gerard Manley Hopkins, and one of the poems that stood out for me is that nature is a Heraclitean fire, and of the comfort of the resurrection, the full name. But the use of language in that poem is just spectacular. And there was one line that I remember hearing, and when our teacher explained it. So it's chive lights and shadow tackle in long lashes, lace, lance, and pear, and is describing the way the light penetrates through the tree, through the leaves, through the trees, and scatters itself on the forest floor. I just thought that was such a innovative use of language, and really loved it. So back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. You might put that in the chat so that we can keep that. Fantastic. Jesper, what are you going to be doing as our general evaluator?
Thank you, Toastmaster Pat. As general evaluator, I will be providing an overall evaluation of today's meeting, and I will actually be following today's theme. And based on the notes provided by Pat, poetry is important because it elevates us. It enlightens us. It invites us to reflect. It causes us to remember. It enhances our vocabulary. It identifies with our community, our heritage, our culture, and much more. Elevate, enlighten, reflect, remember, enhance, and identify. These are the things I'll be looking for in today's evaluation. And for my poem, Who Loves a Good Book? Here's a poem from Catherine Pulsford. To read a good book is like a vacation. To learn from a book and put it in application. To relax and enjoy the story is a day filled with glory. And I feel like reading a book right now. Back to you, Toastmaster Pat.
Thank you very much. I love that. Stick that in the chat as well for us, please, Jasper. Now, our word of the day and grammarian in our country. Do we have a word of the day? I don't see one on the agenda. Who's our word of the day? We don't have anybody.
We don't have a grammarian.
We don't have a grammarian. Well, shall anybody like to put up their hand and be grammarian? Or shall I choose the word? Give us those words that we had earlier on. I think I have them in here. And I will choose one of the words. I'll use the word enlighten. So let's use enlighten as our word of the day, and I shall try and keep a track of who uses the word. So can we stick enlighten in the chat for me, please, somebody? Jasper, maybe you might do that, please. And I hope that we will get some enlightenment from our meeting. Now, our recruitment specialist and our timer, Muriel, what are the lights going to look like?
The lights are going to look like green, yellow, and red, Mr. Toastmaster. And it says that as timer, one of the lessons to be practiced in speech training is how to express a thought in a specific amount of time. As timer, I will keep track of each speaker to make sure they stay within the time boundaries. Even if they're trying to enlighten us, they still must stay within the time boundaries. And I will use these cards to help them stay within their boundaries. I will use the green when they have met the minimum amount of time of speaking. I will use the yellow when they have met the middle amount of their speaking. And it's going to really be getting good to whoever is speaking, but they've got to begin to wrap it up, because going towards the end of their speaking, I will have to show the red, but they will have 30 seconds to wrap up their thought. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
And you have a
and I will give a report at the end of the meeting, and you can let me know when you want me to give the timing boundaries for each person speaking. Thank you.
Any poetic thought for us, Muriel?
Well, you know I do. You know I've got to quote the one, the only Maya Angelou.
Oh, lovely. Let's hear it.
And still I rise. I just took an excerpt from there, Mr. Toastmaster. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave? I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
I love it. Maya Angelou. What a fantastic person. That's wonderful. Thank you for that, Muriel. I think this competition for poetry is getting very, very interesting. Now, I don't think we've got our first speaker or our first evaluator for that match. So we're going to move straight to, our second speaker. And our evaluator, so our second speaker is our esteemed president, Mr. White, and our evaluator for that is going to be Sue. Sue, would you like to introduce John's speech and objectives, please?
Sure. So we will be today enlightened by our second speaker who moved to the first place, Jon White DTM. Jon is working on engaging humor level 2, speech number 3, Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. The purpose of this speech is for the member to share some aspect of a previous experience as a protege. The timing of the speech is 5 to 7 minutes. And please help me to welcome Jon as he gives his speech entitled Mentoring, My Way of Giving Back. Mr. Toastmaster, or are we moving over now to the speaker?
Yes, so we have our first speaker is Jon White, mentoring, and I don't have the other part of that. I don't need to coach, mentor. I don't need to know what I don't need what I need, but I need it now. I don't know what I need, but I need it now. Jon White. On mute, Jon. Thank you.
Let me clear something up. That was an old introduction, Pat. What Susan read was the more current one. I knew here the teacher had an assignment and I didn't want to disappoint him. So I quickly went to Leonard Cohen. I wanted to print out a poem. I think I just printed out the whole collection of Leonard Cohen. Let me just say this. I'm twice divorced. The pandemic hit. It's lonely out here. Leonard Cohen, I long to hold some lady. I long to hold some lady, for my love is far away and will not come tomorrow and was not here today. There is no flesh so perfect as on my lady's bone, and yet it seems so distant when I am all alone, as though she were a masterpiece in some castled town that pilgrims come to visit and priests to copy down. Alas, I cannot travel to a love I have so deep, or sleep too close beside a love I want to keep. But I long to hold some lady, for flesh is warm and sweet. Cold skeletons go marching each night beside my feet.
Wow.
And with that, the floor is yours.
And I'm supposed to speak after that? Okay, all right. Reset. No Leonard Cohen. Jon White, 5 to 7.
Okay. Did you need to see the lights, Jon, or no?
Show me the lights when appropriate, me lady.
Okay.
It was a Monday in August of 1998, and I was in my boss's office, and he was lighting me up. He had screamed at me before, but never at this level. His face was beet red. I mean, he was spitting on me almost. It was intense. You see, I marched into his office and defied what he had told me on the Friday before. I told him, looked him straight in the eye, I said, I'm attending UCLA Business School. Let's go back to that prior Friday. I was an investment banker, and in our industry, almost everyone had an MBA. I tried to get into business school before and had been rejected 2 times. Finally, I got a yes from UCLA, the fully employed MBA program where I could work and go to school. I was ecstatic. I got accepted not based on my grades or the school I went to, but rather my work experience and my letter of recommendations, one of which came from my boss. So I didn't understand it. He said that Friday, Jon, I've thought about it, and you just can't go. Look, we love you here. You don't need an MBA. Most people get an MBA to have the job you want. I'll write you a check, whatever it takes, but you can't go. In that moment, I walked out of his office and I thought to myself, I wish my dad were still alive. I needed an adult, male, seasoned perspective. I needed my dad's decency, kindness, generosity, qualities that I hadn't found in investment banking. I loved the industry. I loved the pay. There wasn't much humanity in it. And so I was really in search for some advice. My wife at the time said, talk to my dad, George. I don't know. I thought it was a sign of weakness to ask his advice. I was his daughter's husband. I was supposed to have this stuff understood. This is probably just a bump in the road to him. How could I go to him? But I did reach out to him, and I'll never forget the conversation he had. He was many years my senior and made millions of dollars. He was better than me in all respects, and he did not talk down to me. He asked me a series of questions, and over a 5 to 10 minute conversation, he pulled out of me the answer that I knew. But I was too overwhelmed by the emotion, the uncertainty, the concern about my financial security. And also, I had a concern about being a disloyal employee to him. This is the man that had given me everything, and I was just going to turn my back on him? George told me, John, you had an agreement, and your boss reneged on it. He didn't even give it a chance to work out. And so he's acting in bad faith, not you. And so I walked in and I told that man that I was going to business school. And my job title of vice president was cut down to consultant. My $55,000 salary was cut down to $33,000. The dude even took my parking. I stayed with him 5 years. I got my MBA, and eventually I went on to greener pastures. That was a pivotal time in my life, and that MBA served me well, and I didn't know how to stand up to this man. And that's always stayed with me. I thought in that moment he was a mentor, whether it was an uppercase M or a lowercase m, and I've always wanted to do the same things for others, following in George's steps and also in my dad's step of just being, at some point you get into a point in life where you want to give of yourself to something bigger than you. It's just not about yourself. And my other club, Century City Toastmasters, we had a member, Connor Budka. I almost forgot his name for a second. He was in the finance industry. He had a stutter, and he called me once after working with us about 6 months. He had gone before, he was in a panel. He was one of 5 in front of a crowd of 125 of his peers, almost all of who were senior to him. And he killed it. He didn't hold his own. He killed it. And he called me on the phone, and I want to cry just retelling it. He was so proud of himself. And I felt in that moment that we helped him connect and pull out in him things that he already had in himself. I'm all for improving speaking. I'm all for improving evaluation skills and leadership. But I really have stayed with Toastmasters, if I'm going to be honest, so that I can help other people see things in themselves that they don't see in the moment. Whether it's because they're young and immature, maybe they're a little older, but the emotions of the moment overwhelm them, and they just need someone to correct course. I want to encourage everyone here to be a mentor. Again, whether it's lowercase m, uppercase m, there might not be a contract. You might not hear from someone, but every now and then you might get that call. And as I look at this panel, there's people here I consider a mentor. You might say, who, me? Yeah, there's a time that I reached out to you and you gave me advice and a perspective that I appreciated. So I want to encourage everyone here to continue being a mentor and to know how powerful that is. We all need help. It's a little insight, a little kindness, a moment where you hold someone's interest in your hand and you give back to them. For me, I'm a mentor because I want to give back to George and thank him for what he gave to me. I want to hear more Connor stories. And finally, on my dad's birthday, I want to be the man he raised me to be. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, John. That was powerful, emotional, and personal. And we thank you for sharing that with us. We'll now take a minute and a half, 90 seconds, please, Madam Timer, so that we can give some feedback to John on that speech. Do we have a feedback form, Dave? Well, you can give feedback through the chat.
Through the chat, please.
Through the chat, please. Thank you. We'll go ahead. Our second speaker today is Dr. Alice Ann Crump, 2 times DTM, and to introduce her is King. King.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be able to introduce this amazing young lady. Her name is Dr. Allison Crump. She's a 2-time distinguished Toastmaster. She's been with Toastmasters for over 5 years. She's completed all 11 pathways twice, and she's working on doing it a 3rd time. She's also diligently working on being a better communicator. Allison has more than 3 decades of teaching, counseling, which enables her to reach out to others with humor, warmth, and transparency and strength. She's a mother, teacher, conference speaker, role model, and mentor. She's a certified life coach, and today she will be delivering a speech in Motivating Strategy Path number 5. Reflecting on her path fulfilling her functionary roles, her speech title is Functionary Roles. Who knew? Her speech will be between 10 to 12 minutes. I give you Dr. Alice. Oh,
Thank
the poem I have a poem for my friend. His name is Amir Sudaman. He won the first Emmy. And his poem was entitled, One Day You Will Be Someone's Ancestor. Act accordingly. Don't let the dead outlive you, for they have already done their deeds. And who will you be with your opportunity of life? Do you not know that death has mounted its steed and it's been chasing you since the day you were born? The question is, will it find you in your purpose or your misery? And what will your children be able to say when they scream out your name based off of your life's work? Because one day you will be someone's ancestor. Act accordingly.
Thank you, King. Superb. You might put in the chat for us, please. Our second speaker today is Dr. Alison Crump with a speech titled Functionary Roles, Who Knew? Functionary Roles, Who Knew? Dr. Alison Crump.
May I have the timing? Is that 10 to 12?
10 to 12, 10 to 12.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all so very much. Honored to be here on today. Functionary role. Oh, I have completed all 11 paths and 9 of them for the 3rd time. I never knew when I joined Toastmaster what I needed to do to complete my path. I looked at it. I knew exactly to check off, to do an icebreaker. Let's check it off. I had to give the first and second feedback and evaluation speech. Checked it off. I had to do a research and present it project. Check that out. And I had to evaluate someone. Check that out. At first, that's all I did. We check off project. But one day I paid attention to the assessment. Is that I understand how this works outside of Toastmaster. Outside of Toastmaster. How does it work inside Toastmaster? Then I looked at completing a path differently. How many of you, besides our current Toastmaster for today, have been a Toastmaster for this club or any other club? Okay, that's wonderful. Do you know by serving as the Toastmaster, you have completed a level 4 speech? You didn't even give a speech. You were just a Toastmaster. Want to know what it is? It is managing an online meeting. Did you not manage the meeting today as the Toastmaster? Have you not managed the meeting when you were the Toastmaster? Of course you have. You was able to tell us what the agenda looked like, flow with the agenda. It was you managing your online meeting, especially since COVID happened. One of the reasons why I found Miriam, because of COVID. She was managing her online meeting. Who knew? I began to look at my whole entire path. What else was I doing inside of Toastmaster? Now, this path, by the way, my favorite path is motivation strategy. I have completed that path 5 times. I actually like that. I aspire to be a motivational speaker one day. I hope that all that I'm doing with every path, learning all of the competencies I'm supposed to learn, and every opportunity to speak, If I'm not the speaker, if my club is very large and we're fighting for an opportunity to speak, how can I learn? How can I get better? I know. Serving as a functionary. Who knew? Did you know the last time I did a research and presenting, I was a Toastmaster? I know you're wondering. That possible? Well, one of the clubs I belong to always have a theme. The Toastmaster of the day, they get to decide what the theme is. And I chose for the theme, the Chicago hot dog. I had to do research. Find out, how did that come to be? What's on a Chicago hot dog versus another hot dog? Did not realize that I spoke for 5 minutes explaining what the Chicago hot dog was, who named it, what the ingredients on a Chicago hot dog. How was it different from a New York hot dog? Being a functionary. Oh, I got credit for that speech because I spoke for at least 5 minutes, and I was the Toastmaster of a theme meeting. What else you say? I'm so glad you asked. That's wonderful question. Did you know if you was a general evaluator, you also manage the online meeting? You get to do half of the meeting. You call up those individuals that help with the evaluation team. Did you not manage that? Yes, you did. You can simply ask someone to evaluate how well you manage that portion of the meeting. They don't have to give you a verbal evaluation. Give you written. You have an opportunity to talk and to learn and to express all of the things. I see how this path is working inside of Toastmasters. I have another speech about it working outside of Toastmasters. But today, I'm going to talk about the functioning. Active listening. Table topic, grammarian account, and the evaluator. Were you actively listening? How many ums and ers did I say so far? Have I used incorrect English? Those grammarians and account. Actively listening. Ask someone to evaluate you. How well were you listening? When you evaluate a speech, are you listening for ways I could have improved this speech? Ways that I could have used more vocal variety? More gesture? Yeah, that's a project within your path. And you're not just checking off. You're learning all of the competencies we are supposed to learn in every project. Oh no, the functioning role would allow me to complete project. So just a few. Think about if you're the timer. What project could you finish being the timer? Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had to have 2 roles and you, while you were the timer? Not just say that all you were was the timer for the day. Did you manage your time well? Did you? Did you do your timing role? Sometimes I get caught up in the speech and I forget to flash the light, show my card, juggling some things, managing time. Who knew how hard that would be? Especially when you have those energetic, powerful speeches and you are so engrossed in what's going on that you forget even to push the timer button. Managing how I'm doing this. Who knows? All of our functionary roles help us do the things that we join Toastmasters for. After all, I don't know anybody that joined Toastmasters just to go to a Toastmasters meeting for an hour and a half, twice a month. Most people join Toastmasters because they want to be better speakers. They want to be better communicators. They want to work on leadership role, leadership skill. Did you know you can learn those things just by doing the functionary role? Oh, no, I didn't. I began to look, see the areas that I could do my project by doing what I do every week or every other week. Since the pandemic, I attend at least one meeting a day. I speak at least one meeting a day, every day, including Sunday. Every day there is a Toastmasters meeting that I attend. And there is not a meeting that I go to that I do not speak. I'm not always a speaker, but I do get an opportunity to speak. Fulfilling, functionary role. From the timer, I get to tell you how well you did in speaking. Time. From the grammarian, I get to talk about words that you use. Struck a chord with me. If I'm an evaluator, I get to tell you what I saw, what I heard, felt. Who knows? I'm still learning. I'm still going to be that great speaker. Might not be there yet, but I'm working on it. And every opportunity that I get to be a functionary, to perform a functionary role, winning and completing some of my projects. I don't know about you. Have you ever thought how important those functionary roles are? What they mean to you? We're not just doing a task. Somebody, we need a grammarian. We need an art count. We need a general evaluator. Who wants to do those things? Silence in the room. It should never be silence in the room. Especially because you joined Toastmasters to be that great speaker. How are you going to deal with the butterflies in your stomach if you never stand up and speak? Those might be minor roles, but they are major in your life, those functionary roles. Let's think about it. The Toastmaster manages the own learning. The Toastmaster gives to you vocal variety. And Jester, you'll research speech, especially if it's a thing meeting. Today, poetry. You get to read your poem, especially if you wrote one. Oh no! I didn't. No, back to today that you know that whatever the functionary role is, there is a project that you can attach to it. Someone introduced me today. Guess what? That's a level 3 lecture speech. It's a social speech, an introduction. What you did, you introduced me. How well did you do? Did you say it with blase, blase, blase? Or were you excited to introduce me, which made everybody else excited to hear from me? It's a skill we can learn. How to introduce someone. That's a project. It's a social speech. Who knows that these functionary roles also helping us complete what we do inside of Toastmasters? I love that question. I can do this. It's emerging. It's developing. Let's get to that last question. And it's the last question in everyone's path, in every project. I can see how this works. Of Toastmasters. Okay. How does it work inside Toastmasters? That was my question. And I began to look. How is this going to help me? How is this project, whatever the project is, going to help me inside? when I was working on my vocal variety. And you must admit, this is so important to me because I was soft spoken. When I first joined Toastmasters, every evaluation I got said the same thing. Can you raise your voice just a little bit? And imagine it was not technical. When I joined Toastmasters, I was in person. My voice always dropped. It dropped. And I had no idea. But to me, I was still talking. But I love the fact that when I served as a Toastmaster and asked someone to evaluate me, one of the things they said I can work on, vocal variety. Who knew? Whenever I speak, I often ask someone to evaluate. I want to be better at what I do. I want to be better at evaluating someone. I want to be better at listening, using those skills that Toastmasters promised that I would learn. Also, building confidence. How do I do that? Simply doing the work. Every single day, I look at this path to see how far I've come. I was walking real quiet. You know, I did all kinds of things outside of Toastmasters, just getting by. I want to be better. I want to do better. Well, I keep completing these paths over and over and over again. I want to be that speaker. I want to be the speaker that people want to hear. People want me to say something and listen to what I have to say. So I can't be boring. I might be, but I can't be. Not if I want to fulfill what I want to do. I oftentimes say I want to be a motivational speaker. That's not true. I really want to be an inspirational speaker because it inspired me to breathe life. That's what I really want to do. How will I achieve my goal? Speaking every single day.
Mm-hmm.
How will I achieve my goal? Taking on these functionary roles. They are important to me. I hope they are important to you after today. Take on those roles. We're supposed to learn so much to be confident, how to stand, how to look directly into the camera, how to speak up where people can hear you, how to use your vocal variety. What better way to practice those skills than speaking every day, even when you're not the speaker of the day. But if you serve one of those functionary roles, you're speaking, you're learning, you're growing, you are improving, you are getting better, you are doing the work. So the next time someone says, we need a grammarian, me, that's my least like role. But me, I get an opportunity to learn a new vocabulary word, not just because I gave you a vocabulary word, but because I got a chance to listen to the word you use. Who knew? Being a functionary would allow me to complete a path. Who knew?
All right.
On
Thank
my
you.
and I want you to reflect on your path.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Some thoughts for you. Reflect on your path. Before we go to the timer report, can we have 90 seconds for speaker feedback, please, in the chat to Alison?
90 seconds starts now.
Thank you. So Muriel is going to put the timings in the chat so that we can keep to time and keep going. So I'm going to ask Judith if you would like to please introduce the table topic session. In this part of the meeting, for those of you who aren't familiar, we are going to have some impromptu speaking, and Judith will seed the ideas that she would like you to respond to. Judith.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. We have can't figure this out. Okay, here we go. So these slides are just various quotes. You can do whatever you like to do with them. How this speaks to you and what does it say, if nothing. So that is what this whole idea of poetry table topics. Okay, so let me get myself out of here somewhere. There we go. So poetry is the clear expression of mixed feelings. Let's see who can oh, I can't see anybody here. Okay, Jasper, this is your thoughts. What do you think of this quote?
Yes. Thank you, Table Topics Master Judith. With the mixed feelings, I can absolutely see that, especially from hearing everyone's poems today. With each poem, you have all these emotions that rush through. Happiness, sadness, confusion, confidence. It all rushes through your mind. And you can sense it, especially the way many of our Toastmasters shared their message. You can see that feeling. And then as it gets to you, you have your own way of interpreting it as well. I remember reading my poem about the books. To me, it's giving me that sense of relaxation to other people. It could be a sense of peace, a sense of freedom, a sense of excitement. We all have these feelings of emotions that rush through us as we interpret the poems that we hear. Thank you.
Thank you. But because it's poetry and I want to do something before I go on, I want to share my very, very favorite poem that I have memorized and read about 100 times. This is a poem by Rumi. Be with those who help your being. Be with those who help your being. Don't sit with indifferent people whose breath comes cold out of their mouth. Not these visible forms. Your work is deeper. A chunk of dirt thrown in the air breaks to pieces. If you don't try to fly and so break yourself apart, you will be broken open by death. When it's too late for all of you could become. Leaves get yellow, the tree puts out fresh roots and makes them green. Why are you so content with a love that turns you yellow? That is my very favorite poem. All right, so I just wanted to share this. So here we go next. Rilke, it is spring again. The earth is like a child that knows poems. Victoria.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I love spring. I love the way, especially here in Oregon, we get a lot of rain in the winter. We have a lot of gray skies. And when spring begins and the crocus start to pop up out of the soil, it is the sign of hope for me. Not to be morbid, but I always said I wanted to die in the spring because tulips are my favorite flower. I love tulips. And whenever I see tulips, I am reminded of their beauty and the strength of the stalk. And to watch a tulip grow, if I use cut tulips, I'll put a penny in the water, which somehow either magically or I believe it stops the growth of the stem because they get leggy. Otherwise, they just bloom. And it is with a childlike wonder that every spring I wait for tulips. And I love the look of spring. And it reminds me as I drive and I see trees without their leaves that it's coming. And now I look outside and it's so beautiful outside now. And it's so green. And I love shade. And I love sitting in our backyard, just enjoying all the flowers that I've planted. So for me, this poem reminds me of my childlike wonder every single year, 66 now, of enjoying spring and what it brings. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you. Lovely. Yes, tulip is actually my favorite flower as well. Here we go. Samuel Beckett. Poets are the sense, philosophers the intelligence of humanity. April, this is your quote.
Thank you so much, Judith. This is really a treat. And Pat Caslin, thank you for bringing poetry to us. I mentioned to Pat about this that I have 5 words I utter every day very intentionally. I want to share those with you. Peace, health, happiness, safety, and ease. This is what I want from me to the world. And world, if you want to pass me back some, that's fine. Poets are the sense, philosophers are the intelligence of humanity. Beckett. I see the feather there in the drawing, and Pat sent me a reminder of the poem, and I can't remember the author, fine woman who talks about hope and like a feather and the heart. And I've got it all nicely mixed up. I'll have to ask Pat to put it in our chat.
Emily Dickinson.
Thank you, dear. I'm not very much about hope because I feel like what's really important is paying attention to now. Like I say, peace, health, happiness, safety, and ease to all. Thank you, Judith.
Thank you. And here's another one. Poetry is the first and last of all knowledge. It is immortal as the heart of man. Let's find somebody here somewhere. Okay, Sue, what do you think about this poem? Quote, rather.
Gogong, Gogong. Everybody remember that part, the sequence from Dirty Dancing? And why am I doing this? It's the heart of man. And yes, everything starts with the first beat in life. When we're born, our heartbeat lets the world know we're alive, we are here. Poetry is the food, is the nourishment, is the knowledge that surrounds us, that feeds our heart and our soul. And on the last day, when our time has come on this earth, and the knowledge we have gained throughout our life will let us know if we have lived the life to the fullest and what we have done with it, and how much knowledge we have passed on to the next generation to hopefully learn from it and start already at a higher level than what we had to learn and break rules and grow. Sometimes, as we all know, the older we get, the easier we take things. Why not teaching the youth to take things a little bit slower and not to be too much concerned with it? So yes, I do fully agree with this beautiful poetry that was shared today with our wonderful Table Topics Master for bringing up these beautiful stories and questions. And with that, I would just love to encourage everybody. Poetry can be very simple. It is your own wisdom. And speaking from the heart, it's already poetry. So let's share something beautiful today and enrich each other's lives. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much. That's lovely. Poetry is when an emotion has found its thought and the thought has found words. Gwendolyn, this is your quote for Robert Frost.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. This is the perfect quote for me from Robert Frost. Poetry is when an emotion has found its thought and the thought has found its word. I too, like Muriel, was enlightened by Maya Angelou, which is from my home state. I was born and raised in Arkansas. She was born and raised about an hour and a half from where I was. So to hear her for the first time was amazing. So here goes my emotion colliding at the bottom part of her. Still I rise. Out of the huts of history, shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling. I bear the tide, leaving behind night terror and fear. I rise, bringing the gift that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you. So as we had, this is our last quote of this session. As I write, I create myself again and again. John Graham. That's your quote.
As I write, I create myself again and again. You know, I can think about poetry as being the heart of man and woman, but I also think of the mechanisms of men and women. And so earlier, when I was thinking about enlightenment, I went ahead and I typed in enlightenment into Chat GPT. And this is the poetry I came up with. In twilight's gleam, a seeker's chase, toward enlightenment's sacred grace. Illusions crumble, truth unveiled, in unity, inner peace exhaled. Beyond the stars, a boundless flight, the mind unshackled, seeking light. Awakening to the cosmic song, in unity where souls belong. Through trials faced and battles won, the journey's essence now begun. Embrace the light, let the darkness cease. In unity, find inner peace. Thank you, Madam Table Topics.
Thank you. Pat, this is our last one, you said? Yes?
Yeah, that was our last one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. This was really fun.
Yeah, thank you. That was a wonderful set of thought-provoking questions that you put, Judith, that elicited some fantastic answers and some passion and a real enlightening set of answers. And I thank you, everybody, for participating in this, because this is really, I encourage everybody actually to make sure that you save this chat and go back to it again and again, because you will find inspiration and so much in this chat because of the quality of what everybody has contributed to this. So I thank you for that. I thank you with my heart for it. I want to give you a little poem, if I can find it here, from an American poet called Edna St. Vincent Millay. I'm not sure if you know her. And this poem is, "What lips my lips have kissed. What lips my lips have kissed, and when, where, and why, I have forgotten, and what arms have lain under my head till morning. But the rain is full of ghosts tonight that tap and sigh upon the glass and listen for reply. And in my heart there stirs a quiet pain for unremembered lads that not again will turn to me at midnight with a cry. Thus in the winter stands the lonely tree, nor knows what birds have vanished one by one, yet knows its boughs more silent than before. I cannot say what loves have come and gone. I only know that summer sang in me a little while, that sings in me no more." Edna St. Vincent Millay. She's also the author of that famous "I burn the candle at both ends, it will not last the night, but ah, my foes, and oh, my friends, it gives a lovely light." Now, with that, I'm going to turn this meeting over to our general evaluator. First, after I've got the timings, please, for the table topics, and perhaps Muriel, you might put those into the chat.
I sure will.
Forward. Thank you very much. Now, Jesper, the meeting is yours.
Today's meeting was a poem in and of itself. It fit the theme perfectly. And based on the homework assignment, everyone shared a poem that was truly meaningful, not just to themselves, but to everyone here as well. As far as the meeting goes, April, thank you for starting us on time. President Jon White, when he started, you shared a bit of history. You gave us a history lesson, and that follows based on Pat's notes. Poetry is important because it causes us to remember. So you hit that point as far as making this meeting a poem. You interacted with your guests, and that was truly valuable because that elevated all of us in the room. For Mariel, bringing in all these guests today, that's causing others to identify with our Masters Evaluation community. For Toastmaster Pat, when he started his Toastmasters role, he shared the word loquacious, which is embracing our vocabulary. And he gave us a strong start to the theme with his impactful poem. For David, thank you for minimizing interruptions as Zoom Master. You've made sure our community in Masters of Evaluation has stayed safe. For our grammarian, thank you to our Toastmaster Pat for stepping up. That encourages us to enlighten our organization. Mariel, when you shared your poem, And Still I Rise, it's a famous poem. I've never heard anyone read it before, but when you shared it with us, that passion matched exactly how I imagined it would be read. For Jon as the first speaker, there were many quotes that really caused me to reflect. For example, I believe his name was George. He pulled me out of the answer that I knew. Another quote that stood out: help other people see things in themselves. Encourage everyone to be a mentor. And just general reflections with George. Just like a poem, it causes us to reflect. Our second speaker, Dr. Alice Ann, it was clear that her experience shined through. And even with her experience, she continued to ask, how can I learn? How can I get better? And with her speech, she made it clear, functionary roles. Who knew? I also appreciated the advice that she gave with us, not just about how to maximize what we can get from each role, but also what we can get out of Toastmasters as a whole. Who knew? Overall, Dr. Alice Ann has encouraged us to identify with our Toastmasters community. Who knew? Thank you, Dr. Alice Ann. For table topics, Judith, she gave us the opportunity to interpret our table topics in our own ways, just like poetry. It's an excellent way to fit the feeling of the theme into the message of the theme. In other words, Table Topics Master Judith fit the theme of the theme into the theme. And has that ever been done before? And that is my report. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jasper. I'm going to then take over the part of this meeting and ask, or take back Jasper and ask our evaluator, King, if you would like to please give us your evaluation of King, your evaluating. Sorry, I should ask Sue first if you would give us your evaluation of Jon's speech. Sue, are you ready for that?
I'm absolutely ready. Thank you so
Fantastic.
much. Jon, thank you so much for enlightening us today with the value and the meaning of being a mentor and how important that is. You truly delivered today a very captivating story, telling us on what made you rethink and especially evaluate how you want to be a mentor and what led you to become the mentor and the person that you are today. What you've done also really well, you have a good voice. You enunciate the words really well and you're easy to understand. It was easy for me to follow. and you know how to construct a good speech. You had your opening, you had your main point, you had your findings, and above all, you shined with your call for action, which was really very important and emotionally loaded. And that's when I really connect with that, because you spoke from the heart. And that's what your audience will always connect to. I also like to highlight maybe 2 points that can help you elevate your beautiful speech. Let's start talking about the opening. You started with the story immediately. My suggestion to you is, especially in the opening, you want to have a catchphrase. You want to have something that immediately catches the interest of your audience. For example, and there's just an example in here. Mentoring. Who needs a mentor? And then you can start with a short introduction. Today, I will tell you the path and the importance of mentorship. That way, the audience already knows what you will be talking about. You're captured with a catchphrase, with something that goes like, whoa, what's going to happen here? And then you can start with your beautiful story. The second advice I like to give you today, your ending was emotionally loaded. That's when I really had the connection to it, because it came from the heart. Try to use these emotions already from the beginning. You had a couple phrases when you said like how disappointed you were, but you said it was the same tone as you said when you were very excited about something. So bring it up, I was very excited, it was so wonderful. And then a little pause, and then you continue. So pauses will help you also that your audience will digest a little bit what you just said and then can follow you. The storyline should be always like this. You want to build your audience with emotions, get them excited, drag them down. And you had it, like you went through a time when you needed and were seeking and searching for that advice, for that mentor. So you already pull us down, and then you end up with pulling us up again. And you perfectly did it, because you had a heartfelt call for action. You ended with a very emotional statement. But just bring these emotions a little bit more, because you have them, obviously. So I'd like to see that. So to sum it up, you have a wealth of stories. Just listening to this one story from you today, I can already see that you could make 10 speeches out of this one storyline today. Use those. You know how to construct a good and great speech. You have good emotions. So bring that more. Keep in mind, play around with that opening. And one thing that you truly and honestly excelled with, which literally gave me goosebumps today, was your ending. When you said who you want to be as a mentor, that you're striving also what your father was for you. You opened your heart to us, and I'm not exaggerating, I had goosebumps. So bring more of that. You're a wonderful speaker. You had a beautiful call for action. And you have so many more stories to tell to us. And I'm really looking forward to hear all of them. Thank you so much. And back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you very much. I think John will get a lot of value from what you said there. Can I ask King, please, if you would evaluate Alison's speech, please?
I'm sorry, Pat, but it is a general evaluator, actually, that should introduce the evaluators.
Yes, I know. I think, I'm not sure, Jasper, if that was clear to you. But if you wish to take over, I'm happy for you to, or I'll keep going.
I had mixed things around. I will turn it back over to you, Toastmaster Pat.
Okay, thank you. King.
All right, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your amazing session today. It was awesome, but I had the pleasure of being able to do an evaluation for Miss Alison's speech. And first and foremost, I thought it was just a great conversation. Thought it was very thought-provoking and powerful and informative. It made you want to hear more about Toastmasters and being a part of this amazing community. She had an amazing vocal variety. And even still, when she was going through her speech, it inspired me to want to increase my work ethic by completing both paths 2 times and working on her 3rd time. And I'm like, man, I don't even know if I want to complete number 1. It made me check myself and my own emotions about the things that I could do and why I should be exciting. And I think she pointed out something that I thought was so amazing. When you have the opportunity to speak, speak. When you have the opportunity to take a role, take a role. Because if you want to get better, the only way to get better is by stepping up, by taking advantage of the opportunity. Because truthfully, somebody wishes they were alive to even have the opportunity to do what we're doing right now on this platform, to be able to use our voices to be inspiring, to be able to touch someone else through our different testimonies that we want to share. So I thought she had a lot of teachable moments. She even had questions for the audience to engage, to have a thought-provoking moment with themselves, like, and allow them to be able to be engaged in her conversation anymore. I thought she had great facial expressions, body language. I thought her "Who Knew" pose was really cute, because she would always bring back the theme of "Who knew?" to remind you of the title, to remind you of the through line. So I thought that was very special and very powerful. I love the consistency in her speech and how she stayed on topic. And it was just a great reminder to say, hey, we can always do more. We can always go forward. And the more we work at something, the better we'll be all become as speakers. So I just want to congratulate you. Things that I think that you can work on is to make sure that you see the timer before you do your speech, knowing where she is. And if you don't see the timer, say, hey, I don't see the timer, give me a second so I can pin the timer, so that way you can stay on time, because I wouldn't want us to lose such a powerful speech if you were competing in the contest, for you to disqualify yourself for that. But outside of that, I thought you were amazing. I thought you were brilliant, and I can't wait to hear more from you.
Thank you very much, King. Superb. Now, Vicky, would you like to give us your evaluation of table topics, please?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Today's table topics were enhanced by the topic of poetry and Judith following through with that. I thought that you used slides really well, Judith, and I would see in the sidebar the speaker, and sometimes I saw Muriel as well, which again is really important from what King just said. I'm wondering if, and it's a little technology work through, if you could consider taking down the slide when the speaker comes up. Once they get their quote, taking it down, and it's up and down a lot, but I'm trying to make the speaker the focus, not the slide. But I have to say, every single answer was truly reflective and thoughtful and wise. And I would like to point out a couple of speakers. Sue, you were very quiet, and I gave feedback to Alice Ann about this too. Sometimes you're very quiet and it's hard to hear. And while you can step forward to listen or turn up your volume, sometimes people just turn it off. So make sure you don't lose your voice and that we can hear you. But you had a great call, so take everything I just said and forget about it. You had a great call to action in your speech. Dr. Gwendolyn, excellent emotion reading. And so I rise. The emotion found its thought. You perfectly demonstrated the quote that you gave, and I really like that. Jon, poetry is the heart of man and women. Good job. And then you read a poem that was generated by ChatGPT. Brilliant. Now, for those who are not familiar with ChatGPT, I would suggest, and you've got to find ways to get it, you've got to explain what ChatGPT is. We think everybody knows it, but for those of you who don't know, that's artificial intelligence wrote a poem when he typed in some words. That was well done. Table topics was well done today. I thought that the timing was great. Judith, you watched the time on the agenda, which I always appreciate. You brought the theme forward. Pat, you've done a great job. And that, I'd like to give my poem today, which is Invictus. And I love the poem Invictus. And the part that I have memorized is, it matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. By William Ernest Henley. I have used that quote in my battle against cancer. And I have a skin flap here on my arm where skin was taken out of my arm and put in my mouth. And I want to get the word Invictus tattooed right here. I don't have any tattoos to date, but I'm going to get that done. I put it on with henna in New Jersey a couple weeks ago, and it hurt like hell to get henna. So I can't wait for a tattoo. But that said, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul, Mr. Toastmaster.
And Still I Rise is only a fitting sequel to being the master of your fate and the captain of your soul, Vicky. Congratulations. And we're going to go slightly off the agenda and go back to Jasper, who's going to give us some comments, please, on the evaluators, which was probably the part of the evaluation that was missing. So, Jess, will you take a minute, please, to give some feedback to the evaluators?
Yes, I realized I gave my main report earlier. However, I still have the opportunity to evaluate our evaluators. Sue, reflecting on today's theme as a poem, the way you shared your evaluation, things that stood out, emotion, connection, came from the heart. These feelings of just reinforcing that message, very poetic. King, the word you used when you started, inspire, that stood out. There are people who want the opportunity to do what they're doing. Wow. And as you reflected on Dr. Alice Ann's speech, you reflected on her messages of growth, improvement, progress, just like a poem should do. Great job. And for Vicky, with the evaluation, I appreciate how she shared specific action items, just like a poem that should elevate us to do more. And today's meeting, as far as Toastmaster Pat's theme, elevate, enlighten, reflect, remember, enhance, identify with our community. We did all that today. Today's meeting has been a truly poetic event. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jasper. Fantastic. I am going to give you my grammarian report, or the word of the day. The word of the day was well used and interspersed throughout. I definitely heard it from a lot of people. But you know, it's the some of the things that I heard: peace, health, happiness, safety, and ease. And beautiful. Poetry is the heart of man, John. Yes, it is. And for those of us who take the time to sit down and look at it and take value from it. But the thing that I took most from today, and they're the words that Jasper's just used there, are the words that I put into this. I'm elevated, I'm enlightened, I've reflected, I've remembered, I feel enhanced, and I've identified with who I am and who this community is that we are among. And to that extent, poetry has brought us together in a shared sense of really true creation of values. Do not forget to save this chat, because there is incredible value in that. And with that, I am going to ask Muriel if you can put the timings, please, for the evaluations into the chat. And I'm going to give you to our Toastmaster at 10:21, a minute late, well, actually, I'll give you my closing remarks. My closing remarks are essentially in those words, the words that I used in the meeting notes. I think we have achieved all those as a community. I thank everybody for their participation in those, for Judith for sharing the theme or continuing the theme, for everybody who participated by giving us something that is important to them in a way that it is, for Gwendolyn for the passion with which you brought, to Vicky for sharing the ending of the poem Invictus, and that was Still I Rise. I am the master, the captain of my soul. I am the master of my fate, or the other way around. We are all of those things, and I think we have reflected on being all of those things and have enlightened each other today. And for that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I thank you for your speeches. I thank you for your contributions. And I will pass you to our president for his closing remarks. Mr. White.
Oh my goodness. What a meeting. Well put. Yes, everyone contributed greatly. And Pat, we missed you. I know I've been that derelict student that just didn't want to do the homework about poetry, but it's sort of like a good evaluation that you couldn't have come up with yourself, but you recognize the truth. And so I've heard a lot of truth and beauty. I'm going to have to talk about some American cinema, if you don't mind. What was it? The Dead Poets Society. Do you remember that scene with Robin Williams where he says, "Gather around, men. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race. and the human race is filled with passion. Yes, medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are why we stay alive for. And I think this meeting was well alive. Woo, it was something else. I'm going to save the chat. I wish I could bottle the emotion of just the love and the creativity, because I'm going to tell you, I had an anxiety attack about the poetry thing. This is a little outside of my comfort, but I receive it and I'm playing along. I wanted to, because I missed it, to give a formal introduction to our newest member of the club, Dr. Gwendolyn. If we could all unmute and just say hello. And
welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome, Gwendolyn, Dr. Gwendolyn.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. And I apologize. We should have had an induction, but I was anxious about poetry and speaking and a number of things. So it was about me in a moment. So it's going to be about you next meeting. We're going to start that off with a proper induction. It's great to see you. Wanted to say hi and hear from a couple of guests real quickly. Jon, are you a guest or a member, my friend? Or do we need chat GPS to talk for you?
I feel like a member. I haven't quite officially joined. I'm still a guest. April brought me in to begin with, and it's addictive. Thank you.
Well, I would just say this. We'd love to have you on a regular basis. No hard sell, but you really do contribute so much to the meeting, and it'd be wonderful to see you twice a month. Sue, I must say that was a wonderful evaluation you gave. That was really added things that I could start with rather than go into the story itself. So thank you very much for that. You also did a table topic evaluation, so you really were put to work. So much so as if you were a member. I'm just dropping that as a possibility. But Sue, what'd you think about the meeting?
Thank you so much for having me here today. It was an absolute honor and pleasure to evaluate you today. But I have to say, this is an amazing meeting. I love the theme. I love how everybody stepped up and incorporated poetry throughout the entire meeting. It really excited me and it motivated me so much to just hear so much beautiful poetry that, you may have heard it a couple years ago, but you didn't really think about it anymore. And let's face it, poetry is true motivation and inspiration, and it's the food for our soul. So I really appreciate being here today. Everybody beautifully worked together, and I also love the evaluations. For example, Victoria having somebody evaluating the table topics. I think that's fantastic. I didn't see it so far. And congratulations again. It's a great club here, and it was a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Alison, what were your thoughts? And thank you for your speech. I always, Sandra has done this before, the way to expand our knowledge and thoughts and possibilities of pathways. So who knew? We know a lot more because of you. What'd you think of the meeting?
I absolutely love coming and being a part of this particular club. Thank you all for wonderful words in the chat. And I do want to apologize because when I sat down, I can move and manipulate my screen. But because I stood up, I didn't have access, so I can still see Muriel. So I apologize for running over time. But thank you. It was a great meeting. I will be back to visit. I love being in this space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wrote in chat to Muriel, Alice Ann is out Muriel Shabazing you. I never thought it was possible. You've got more hustle than she does, and I've never seen that. So I bow down to you. But I also acknowledge that there's room for both of you if you wanted to join us. King, what did you think of the meeting, sir? King, are you with us?
I thought it was excellent. Excited to participate. I'm grateful for my mom, Mariel, inviting me, because I actually kind of had the Toastmaster blues and I haven't been participating a lot lately. So for her to bring me back and to be able to hear Alison's speech was something that I personally needed for me. So thank you, Alison, for relighting the fire up under me. And because sometimes your ego can get in the way. I know I'm an amazing speaker. And so Alison only motivated me to say, hey, you can always work on your craft. You can always be better. And even if it's not speaking, you can become a better evaluator. You can become better in different functionary roles. So continue to be your best while you have this opportunity to be alive. Why not be great? So thank you, Allison, for remotivating me.
Wonderful. I think that's all the guests. We have a couple things we want to schedule to next meetings up, but before we do that, and Pat is going to close with a closing thought, so don't go off after we sign up. But before that, Sandra, Sandra Savage, I don't know that we've heard your beautiful voice today. Anything you'd like to contribute or share with us before we go there?
Hit the wrong button.
There you go.
I am so glad that Sue came in and replaced me as your evaluator today. She had insight that I would not have picked up on and is very encouraging and also instructive. And I loved her evaluation. She is a master of evaluation. And I've met Sue in many other clubs, and she's an enjoyable, lovely person. It was so great to have you here. And Alice-Ann, you and I need to get together. We could become like the most creative people about pathways out there, because I think there's so much potential, and it really starts with your dream. And that's where I like to go. So thank you, Jon.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to close my eyes and just take this in, because it's been such a great meeting. And I know we have just a perfect way to end it. Pat Caslin is going to share another poem with us. So with that, we will be adjourned after the poet. So the floor is yours, Pat.
Thank you. Mr. Yeats, when he gave his acceptance speech to the Nobel Committee in 1923, said that his poetry reflected the language of the people. And there is a beautiful expression in Irish that goes "Sodda gabog le de Crushkin lawn," and what it means is tread softly when your cup is overflowing. Don't push yourself on other people. It's a beautiful expression. And W.B. Yeats's most famous and favorite poem, which is a beautiful love poem, is "He Wishes for the Cloths of Heaven," and it goes like this: "Had I the heavens embroidered cloths, enwrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light and the half-light, I would spread the cloths under your feet. But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams."
Thank you. And just a little business. Yes, we are meeting on the 18th.